next, Grief Through His Eyes, a book co-authored by 14 men who share their stories of loss and how they struggled to cope. Erica Linney sat down with the visionary of the project and two of its co-authors to share how men can find strength and victory in grief.
Well, Deborah Frye, Cliff Hedgepeth, and Bryan Leonard, thank you so much for joining me on TPI.
Thank you for having us.
Now, you all are the co-authors of this book, Grief Through His Eyes. Now, while you are definitely authors on this, Deborah, this was your vision. Now, just to go back a little bit, you've already written 7 books prior to this, most of them dealing with grief.
Right.
But this time, you have 14 co-authors, and the great thing about it is all men.
Yes.
So why did you choose to focus on grief specifically for men?
Well, it was something that the Lord dropped into my spirit. I take no credit. So it was something that he dropped into my spirit because he gave it to me years ago. But I put it high on the shelf because I didn't think I was qualified to do such a project. Us women, we have a plethora of so many different things that we can do, but our men don't get a chance to share. They don't get a chance to express in a safe space, and they don't get a chance to tell their story, tell their authentic stories.
Well, I'm glad we have 2 of the authors here. So I'm going to start with you, Cliff. Okay. Now, when you were 16,
yes,
your mother passed away. Take me back to that day and share what happened.
Yes, I am the youngest of 7 siblings. And at the time, all of them were grown and gone. And I was the only one left home with my single mother. And as we were walking home, she said to me, she said, baby, my head hurts. And my mother wasn't one to complain, you know, and you just brushed it off, you know, and went home. And when we got home, she sat down and she was sitting on the sofa, counting her money for the day. You know, and then I said, Mom, I'm gonna run down in the corner and spend some time with my sister Marie. So I did, and when I returned home, there was my mother still sitting in the same spot that she was when I left her, with her head thrown back, eyes open, all of her money still in her lap. I discovered her that way, and it was a shock to me because I lost a lot of opportunity because being 16, I was a rebellious 16. I had already dropped out of school. I had living a life that I know she couldn't be proud of. So what happened with that, from that moment, is she became the catalyst for my whole life.
Wow.
Because I didn't have a chance to make her proud at the time. So it was a turning point for me.
Well, Bryan, your story's pretty fresh. In 2021, you suffered, in a 2-month span, several losses. Tell us what happened.
Yes, during our celebration of our 37th wedding anniversary, prior to that, we had went to Alabama to visit our brother-in-law who had just passed away from a long-term battle with cancer, my wife and I and family. But during that time, we came back. As a result, we both tested positive for COVID pneumonia. We ended up in the hospital. Situation was very, very difficult. Our lives were both in danger, and they was concerned about our oxygen levels while we was at the hospital. And as a result, as time went on, I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, was able to recover, but unfortunately my wife, who had experienced difficulties because of the symptoms of COVID pneumonia, she succumbed to those conditions and transitioned to be with the Lord. But at the same time, also, my son's wife suffered their second miscarriage. And at the same time, my daughter also needed surgery right then on her left toe because they was looking to amputate her toe because it got so infected.
Now, both of you seem to be in a good place, and I know grief is ongoing. I know it's ongoing. But what I got from your story, and basically every story in the book, with men, when it comes to grief, they suppress it. There is a suppressing, there is not a reaching out for help. And I talked to a friend yesterday, and I was talking to him about this interview coming up. And he said, you know, he has this thing he calls crying in the car. And I was like, well, why do you cry in the car? He said, well, I can't cry at home because I got to be strong for my family.
Wow.
I can't cry at work.
Yeah.
I can't cry even at church.
Yeah.
So the only place I have is to cry in the car.
My goodness.
What is it with men that resist that urge to reach out, to ask for help, to grieve properly?
Wow. Don't go anywhere. We have part 2 of their conversation after this.